Did they explain to you what the call was for and when it came?
What are you going to do? Judgment calls.
Coach, what can you guys do to make Everett Golson a little bit more uncomfortable in the second half?
Well, you know, we're doing pretty well. He only has 55 yards passing. He hasn't hurt us really running. They had one big run. Other than that, we played really well.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Heather. Not very happy. Did you notice that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Boys and girls, welcome back. It is the New School Full Grotto Gangsta with the Irish Coffee and Donuts Show, 12:45 p.m. on Sunday, October 28th. Quite possibly the most beautiful day of 2012 so far. Gosh, man, what do you think? I can't think of a more perfect day. Waking up 8-0, beat down Oklahoma. Life's good.
Did we win?
We won.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch the end. I went to bed, so I don't know what happened. But
right.
Just kidding, folks. No, I mean, hey, let's get right into it. I think that much like Notre Dame, I feel like we have totally grown as a podcast. I feel like when we first started, we were just kind of throwing things around. We had an easy opponent, and just kind of seeing what sticks. But now. And again, this is not just to toot our own horn, but we want to show everybody that we do have a little bit of continuity, a little bit of thought into what's going on here. So anybody that sees this on YouTube or whatever, go back to I believe it's week 8, the BYU week, and we laid out the formula for Notre Dame beating Oklahoma. And as we were texting back and forth today, doing the pre-show work, we were dead on. I mean, it was dead on. Now, granted, we took the Kansas State template, and really so did Notre Dame. But dead on. Everything we predicted, everything we talked about for the most part came to fruition, and we had the formula, and Notre Dame were, I mean, absolutely able to go there and execute. It was just, I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Week 8 is the BYU recap, Oklahoma preview. If you want to jump ahead to minute 27, this is also on Podomatic. Nobody can find it on Podomatic. I can't even find it on Podomatic. If you can, it's in there week 20 or minute 27 as well. But the main points from that were A, keep Oklahoma under 100 yards rushing. B, force a turnover. C, keep them under 20 points. And a couple of things we threw out. We need a little bit more aggressive blitzing. And you had said Manti needs a Heisman moment. So, Heisman moment, check. More aggressive blitzing. We did blitz, a little bit. So we did that. We definitely kept them scoring-wise in there. Although it was never, we were only up by a score in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Well, even at Norman against a team like Oklahoma, one of the things that's really blown me away this year is how confident you feel as a fan when Notre Dame has any sort of lead whatsoever. I mean, anything at all. Right off the bat, holding them to the field goal. The fact that they didn't just blow it open at home felt very, very good. They, Notre Dame had a little help on the missed snap there that went back 42 yards or whatever it was.
We did that against Michigan one year, right? Was that Demetrius Jones?
Yeah, that was. Man, I want to say that would have been Dane Chris, but I could be wrong. That was first play of the game, and they were deep in their own.
Yeah,
went back to the goal line.
15 or
Dane
something.
Chris, I'm thinking, but I could be wrong. But yeah, the point is, again. It speaks to how amazing this defense is how confident you feel. We saw this in the Michigan game. I was looking through the scores today, going back through the season a little bit in my head. We beat Michigan 13-6. That is not
not
a
sexy.
big deal. Nope. But you know what? It's amazing how confident you feel. We felt that way during Michigan State. It was like, hey, just the clock becomes Notre Dame's biggest opponent at that point.
Chewed it. They chewed the clock. What's stat-wise? Or just an overall theme. It don't necessarily need to get into specific plays yet.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the most impressive thing to you about last night?
The most impressive thing to me, if you just say in a nutshell, as a Notre Dame fan, and again, Notre Dame did a lot of the things that we talked about. One of the things that needs to be noted, and this is different than what I expected this year. We started out our first week or two podcast, like I said, we were pretty raw. We were rookies back then. But if you want to listen to it, we're talking about receivers, and we're talking about who's going to be the big-time receiver. This is a running team. This is a running team.
But in fairness, our comments were, and we can do it. I like Accountability Sunday. I've called many people to task on Twitter for accountability. I have no problem with our own. You said who's going to be the breakout receiver, and I said probably nobody. It's going to be a little bit of everyone,
right?
And then that's what it is. To me, I just want to put this out there because I feel great about this. Oklahoma, 24 rushing attempts for 15 yards for 0.6 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Staggering. That is mind-blowing. My mind has been boggled.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. But you know what? One of the things, though, that's been the story. I mean, how many times did the commentators say they haven't allowed a rushing touchdown? We all know that. But let's talk about something that I feel like Notre Dame kind of came of age last night, that it was like, hey, we've arrived. We've seen the rushing defense thing. We've seen them not give up a rushing TD. One of the things that I was most impressed with is that Oklahoma had 5 punts inside the 20. The field position was wretched for Notre Dame last night, and they were establishing long, clock-eating drives. The other thing, the stat that really blew me away, third down conversions. Notre Dame was 7 of 15 on third down, and Oklahoma was 4 of 14. So Notre Dame coming through both sides of the ball, coming through on third down, being very clutch on offense, getting some great throws and catches from Golson to either, T.J. Jones, Tyler Eifert, Reese to Eifert. I believe that was a third down play when Reese had to come in.
Yeah, it was. And I knew, and I even said before he threw it, I don't know, if Oklahoma scouted anything, you have to, that's all Reese to Eifert, that's all he's going to do.
And they guarded him like that. There was another one in the end zone when he was held by 3 people. Everybody knew they were going there. But for me last night, the things that were pleasant surprises as opposed to, I know they have a great rush defense, and now America knows it. But the thing that blew me away was long, clock-eating, established drives, and how amazing Notre Dame was on third down. Absolutely amazing.
Well, and I think we made reference to time of possession was, we had 5 minutes more time of possession, 32.5 minutes to 27.5.
And I have it written down here, eerily similar to the Kansas State victory, which we talked about. Kansas State was 34 minutes, Oklahoma was 25. Notre Dame 32-27, eerily close on time of possession. And the similarities between those two games, if anybody out there wants to beat Oklahoma, the two games are very, very similar.
And we even said previously in other podcasts too, if you've been following with us, what's the formula to beat Notre Dame? Tempo, no huddle, quick strike. I mean, that first quarter when they came out, they were at will. I'm like, God, why are we playing so soft? What the hell's going on here? They were moving the ball at will. I mean, in those 2 possessions, for them to only come away with 3 points was a minor miracle. But Oklahoma had the recipe, they had the secret sauce going. They just couldn't capitalize.
Right. No, I totally agree. But the other thing that we've talked about in the past, which was Notre Dame's bend don't break. Again, that's not just a catchphrase. That's not just a philosophy. The bend don't break, what that means is they do get tougher on third down, they get more aggressive, but as we have seen, and this happened last night again, the field is a defender for Notre Dame. When the field gets shorter, that soft core is not there, and there are no places to. So Notre Dame's secondary uses space and geography better than anybody, because they need to. They have to do that. So when you see, like you said, Oklahoma came out tempo, which we've said all year. That's the way to get Notre Dame back on their heels is with tempo. But you know what? They couldn't sustain it over and over and over and over. They had to take that moment where they're like...
And because they weren't running the ball. They couldn't run the ball, so
they couldn't take a breather.
They became one-dimensional.
Absolutely.
And, for as much as they were running tempo, we were subbing. Sheldon Day was in. Springman had a great game. We kept piling guys in there, and they were fresh. I mean, even our depth on D-line is great. I mean, even when these second guys come in, they fill the role. There's not a huge drop-off in production. You want to run tempo? Now, am I saying we can run the field up and down with Oregon? Maybe not. But if you want to go tempo, fine. We have enough guys where if Nix gets tired, we put in Schwanke. There's not a huge drop off in production yet, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line is anybody that was coming in on the defensive side of the ball, and we've seen it on the offensive side already. But just as you said, the guys coming in, again, it's kind of a catchphrase, next man in, but it's been very true. There's nobody on the defense that comes in. You're like, oh great. He's going to get exposed. There's nobody like that on the defense. Right. They all have a bare, they all meet the minimum requirement.
There's no Gary Gray on this team.
Yeah, well, Gary Gray had his good plays, but I think that they showed, I had a flashback because they showed the Boston College rushing touchdown, and I was like, oh, number 4.
No,
Chill went down my spine.
You're right. All right, so You know, one thing I looked this morning, we have faced, as far as rushing defenses that we've gone against, Stanford, #2 rushing defense in the country. Michigan State, #7 rushing defense in the country. BYU, #10 rushing defense in the country. For the record, the Irish are #9. But we have faced some great defensive lines, and we moved the ball. Now, we had 122 yards on the ground against Michigan State. Wasn't overwhelming, but 270 against BYU, and last night 215 against Oklahoma. These guys moved the rock.
Yeah, well, not only that, but I'd like to give a little credit here to the coaching staff and specifically to the play calling. One of the things I think we've seen on the rushing side is not only the fact that we have kind of the platoon system, we have the multiple guys, and the other big thing that we can talk about a little bit, as we go on here, is Golson is becoming a very, very legitimate rushing threat at this point. But here's the thing: a lot of teams, especially nowadays with the spread offense, the passing game gets so creative from an offensive play calling standpoint, and then running kind of goes back to the old, hey, run it up the gut. Notre Dame does not do that. They try a lot of different things and angles and quirks. Okay, a little bit too far for me to have the Goodman pass. I don't think we really need that going on.
He took down his completion percentage. I think Goody was like 3 for 4, and 2 of them were touchdowns, and one Floyd dropped an easy TD up until last night. Did your heart stop when Golson went down, when he had that run up the middle?
My heart did stop. The EKG, whatever pattern was probably bizarre, because one of them, it was like, did he get hurt? And I'll be honest, I was actually holding the baby at the time. I didn't see the play live, and I'm like, is he hurt? What happened? Is he hurt? And I see a guy running the other way, and I'm like, I don't even know what to freak out about.
A true fan would have thrown the kid down and run straight to the TV.
Exactly. Right? So I was like, is he hurt? Are they running this back?
I thought he broke a rib. I thought he was out.
Yeah, but once they showed the replay, it did look a lot like a, when knocked out of him situation. But let's go back to that. I hope to God that he was actually hurt a little bit, and the reason I say that is he's been hurt in a lot of these games, and it was awesome to see and hear the sideline report. He's gritting it out. You know what? Give me a shot at Gatorade. I'm back in.
But one thing that needs to be said is he was still hanging the ball out there when he was running on that play and a couple other plays.
Where he reached up over his head. You're right.
He's stretching it out. He understands the ground can't cause a fumble, or if your elbow hits or whatever, but he hangs that thing out there. And one of these times, a not so generous replay official or whatever, it's that is a potential issue. But at the end of the day, Everett Golson, finally they opened up a little bit for him. 11 carries, 64 yards, 5.8 yards per rush with long as 16. Not too bad. I mean, his longest run was longer than Theo's.
Yeah, well, not only just everybody knew, anybody that has seen Golson previously, even back to the blue and gold game, you knew he had this ability. But you know what? I had this proud father moment where he sent Riddick out of the back. I believe it was Riddick. He sent him out of the backfield.
Yeah, it was a 3rd down. It was like 3rd and 2. I was like, God, why the hell are we going empty backfield on 3rd down again?
But
because previously we tried to throw on 3rd down and didn't get it. And I was like, what the hell? He sends Riddick out. The backer moves with him. Guard and center just parted the Red Sea.
Right.
And man, he had it right up there.
Yeah, and it was one of those plays where you're so thankful that everybody, doing the TV broadcast is so astute, because they showed the view from behind the line on that play, and it just looked unbelievable. And I'm like, that was the kind of stuff that Tommy Rees can do in his brain, but he can't do with his legs, to read that type of thing. But again, I know he does hang the ball out there like a loaf of bread. Golson, son, you got to tuck it. Watch the program, the program, to get the ball tucked. But the bottom line is, I have no. There's so much of an advantage of him rushing that you kind of have to take the good with the bad.
Yep,
I mean, he had another one where he slipped by guys. His hips are swiveling back and forth. He got a 1st down, at least 2 first downs. That he made happen on 3rd.
He did, got out of bounds without getting whacked. Yep. He threw the ball away at the right time a couple of times.
Yeah.
He got outside the tackle box, so it wasn't going to be a grounding or anything like that. What else you got on your list here? Anything for Oklahoma before we get going into Pittsburgh?
No, I got most of the stuff. Like I said, it was just. I really want anybody that's listening to the podcast at all to go back, because I feel like I'm just really proud of us that we had a lot of stuff dialed in as far as the preview. We talked about not letting them score early. We talked about it's time to put more chips on the table and blitzing, and I think we did see that with Teo's big sack. We saw more blitzing.
Fox was coming several times.
Yeah. I have one more thing about Oklahoma. What I want to say is, I think a lot of people, as we know, a lot of the haters are going to come out. Now that Oklahoma has 2 losses, everybody's going to try to spin this as, oh, Oklahoma's not that good. But there were a couple things in that game that were kind of working against Notre Dame, and I think they're even better now than what they looked. And one of them was, like I said, the field position. Notre Dame was pinned so far back in field position. The other thing that was huge is we do very, very well tackling on returns. Our cover game is very good, and we have not allowed, from what I know, a really big return, and that was huge. And then finally, once again leaving points on the field with the field goal. It's not a lot, but Notre Dame could have easily had 3 more points if they made a field goal. So this was not.
And a couple of those coulda, shoulda, woulda been touchdowns too.
But by the time it got to the end, I mean, it's just kind of bizarre. You look at the like if you didn't watch the game, that was a joke by the way. If you didn't watch the game though, and you look at the score, it's like, whoa, that's a 3-score game. You know, it's kind of bizarre. Yeah. So, hey, Oklahoma's a good team, and Notre Dame just the execution, the coaching. The play calling and the coaching is clearly at another level. Anybody that doesn't see that just doesn't know what's going on.
Two-part question. Which one of these gave you the most satisfaction when you saw it? Were you just jumping out of your seat, flipping out, going nuts, screaming, cussing, throwing babies, whatever you do when Notre Dame does something phenomenal? Sierra Wood, 62-yard touchdown straight up the pipe to the house, which was our first score. Manti's absolute emasculation of Landry Jones on the sack, straight destruction. Manti's interception, or Chris Brown's 50-yard A-bomb from Golson.
I think if I had to take the one and say what was I most excited about, it was the 50-yard bomb to Brown. The best moment, I think, was Teo's sack, and that's solely because I predicted it last week, but I said, you know, this is your high-profile guy, Landry Jones, this is our high-profile guy, and it was kind of like the only time you two really butt heads, and obviously, you know, Teo got the best of that one. The interception, that's more of a, how is this guy, it reminds me of Tommy Zibikowski. It's like, how is this guy always where the ball is? He covers an area of the field that's roughly the half court of a basketball court. Yep, that's what he covers. Watching him go down the line to make tackles is unbelievable. But I'm going to go with the bomb, and the reasons for that are really proving that Golson has a deep ball. He has a really, really good deep ball. Very accurate. And the first one, too, was basically a drop. Yeah. The first bomb that they tried. Yeah. So the fact that...
They've run that play to Brown probably 5 times now this year. That's his first catch in the year.
Yeah, and we saw it earlier in the game, so part of me was like, hey, there's some unfinished business here, because he was open, and Golson, you knew he wanted it, and everybody else watching the game wanted it. So that one gave me the most satisfaction. Teo, only because the guy's a victim of his own success here. That's the only reason I'm not saying he had the play of the game, is just because I'm expecting it now. But to see the new guys, the young guys, is what excited me.
We know which one was the most exciting. Which one do you think was the most critical as far as timing during the game?
Timing during the game, as far as I recall, the biggest thing was the interception. I mean, just getting the nail in the coffin. Like I said, I think I tweeted at the time, like, Notre Dame quick strike? What's going on here? I mean, we haven't seen that type of thing from Notre Dame. So that was, the bomb was a wrinkle that was added, but at the same time, Notre Dame could have just killed clock and been okay in that scenario. But the interception was just that nail in the coffin, the Heisman moment. I think that was the most critical thing.
Did you notice two things? One, I thought Theo kind of struggled a little bit. I mean, okay, he had 9.5 yards a carry a week or two ago. I mean, it's hard to live up to that. 19 carries for 74 yards, 3.9 per, which isn't bad.
One of the things I did notice with Riddick, which for whatever reason, is that, first of all, the play calling for Riddick was a little bit... They kept giving him this play where he has to go all the way down the left side, and whoever that guy was, the safety, was so fast that Riddick could not make anything out of that play, and they kept running him down the left side. The other thing with Riddick is, if you present him with the scenario of, if I cut to the right, I know I'm going to get 6 yards, but I'm only going to get 6 yards. Or if I cut to the left, I might get -2, or I might get a touchdown. He always kind of opts for the bigger play. He always tries to make something happen. And I don't think he takes as much of what the defense is giving him. But yeah, I don't know what the deal with Wood was at the end there. I mean...
Yeah, again, I thought it was a little odd that we didn't see Sierra for the rest of the game. I mean, Wood only had 7 carries. He had, the same amount of yards, granted, 62 yards in one play. But I thought it was odd. He was doing great, and we just didn't see him. Sierra to only have 7 carries when Atkinson's not in just struck me as a little weird.
No, I totally agree with that. And again, I think that...
Then again, Eifert only getting 2 balls a game is a little weird too.
Yeah, I mean, you see Eifert in the double coverage, so we all know how that goes. But I think that might just be the play calling in that, how do we deal with the fact that both of these guys can kind of get it done to a point? Now, I mean, I think that I totally agree. There were some scenarios where I'm like, this is more of a Sierra Wood situation as opposed to a theoretic situation. But I think a lot of that's just the product of having multiple guys back there. And even if you have Atkinson, it's even more. We talked about that in the past.
Riddick only had 1 reception. I mean, it's not like you're keeping him in there for passing situations, although he is a threat to catch, but Wood's not bad out of, catching out there. I don't know. I thought that was a little weird.
Well, and I think maybe what you're going for too, which we've mentioned in the past, they don't have a big bruising type of running back, and we've kind of forced Sierra Wood into being that. But I don't know if you're talking about after Brown's bomb catch when they get down, it's like first and goal.
Saying, I don't think Wood was in at all in the fourth quarter. I didn't even see him. I thought it was odd. Who knows? Anyway, well, I feel good about that as far as an Oklahoma recap. I mean, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm surprised we actually kept our composure. I mean, we could have just been doing like New Year's party horns the entire time.
Oh, dude, I shot off some fireworks last night.
Oh, yeah?
I had the silver, what is it called? The Silver Strike,
400 piece Saturn missiles.
It was 1,000. It was 1,000.
1,000 count?
Yeah, I blew it. You go look at the tree stump out back. It's seen better days.
That's good. That's excellent.
And I do have some artillery shells, the big boys, but I figured I'd save those for national title game.
Well, I had the kids in the infirmary last night, so I was doing the thing where every cheer that you do is solely through body movement because you can't make noise to wake anybody up. Yeah. So like your body is just kind of having this crazy fist pump convulsion thing, but you can't really yell. So
all right, so let's talk about Pittsburgh. They don't have the stash anymore, right? He's gone.
Right. Yeah, right. Okay.
One thing I noticed about Pitt,
Fitzgerald there still.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson's gone.
All
right, so Pitt scored 44 points against Temple yesterday. They had 528 yards. They have beat Virginia Tech this year. They've scored 35 points on Louisville this year, who's a ranked team. Is Pitt real? Are they a threat? I mean, every game at this point's a trap game, but is there anything to be afraid of on Pitt?
No, I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. I think the only thing to fear is fear itself. The only thing to fear is Notre Dame losing a game and not getting beaten. I mean, you know what? Yeah, times change. What a difference a couple weeks makes. But Notre Dame has to be feeling so high, and they have to be feeling so confident right now. The only thing left, and I might be including USC in this, the only thing left for them to do is make a mistake. And really there's nobody left on the schedule that could just manhandle them.
Yeah.
And even
USC lost.
Kind of getting exposed.
Marquise Lee had like 350 receiving yards, but they're so one-dimensional. I mean, that's all they do. It's like that reminds me of a Charlie Weiss offense, where it's like our defense isn't spectacular. I mean, Rodriguez. I mean, we know his, but it's like they're so. I guess they're not deep. They're not.
Well,
they're not well-rounded.
The biggest thing about them too
you
is
have the best player on the field, and you keep launching it to the guy, and he can make 350-yard games. That's great, but you shut that down, and then what else can they do? I don't know.
I think that they're also a first-half team, which is typically kind of rare, but I feel like every time I watch it, USC is up, and then all of a sudden the other team starts getting back in it, and then when they lose, it's because the other team takes them over.
They had 493 passing yards, 618 yards total.
Yeah, well, as you know, I mean, the yards don't mean anything. If you saw Bob Stoops at the halftime of the Oklahoma game, his whole reasoning for how they were okay is that he's like, well, Golston only has 55 passing yards. Which I think that was up on the scoreboard.
Marquise
but I'm
Lee,
like,
16 receptions, 345 yards.
Yeah, in a loss. I mean, what's the big deal? Like, hey, I wish he was on my fantasy team, but that'd be great. But again, what we've seen is that Notre Dame is not creating stuff on a statistical basis. We're not relying on that. But let's go back to
Pitt. Yep, Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Jinx,
all right. So Pittsburgh is ranked 72 per Sagarin, 2 spots over Navy. We put up 50 points on Navy. I mean, I think Pittsburgh's probably a little more dangerous offensively, spreading the field, but we ought to be able to score 40 or 50. I mean, these next 3 games where people are like, well, Notre Dame doesn't have any sexy wins. They barely win. They haven't played anybody. Okay, fine. We shut all those people up against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
30 points against Oklahoma is fine. But we haven't had any big blood. We're not scoring 70 points like Oregon.
Right.
But these next 3 games are an opportunity to do that.
You know what? But I'm glad you brought that up. And let me take some wind out of your sails here. I don't think that Notre Dame is going to do that. No. I don't think they're built to. And here's the other thing. For whatever reason, Notre Dame winning games like this is part of college football. Everybody saw what Oregon did to Colorado. There's a reason why they're doing that, and it's kind of a shame that they have to do that because of the college football system, and everybody has their own opinions about that. But the bottom line is, Notre Dame's not built to do that. And honestly, I don't think it's just a football thing. I think there's kind of this weird moral thing that, like, Notre Dame,
now that's funny because you're the guy when I said we shouldn't have scored that last touchdown on Navy. You said, "Oh, Navy beat us. We need to score."
No,
there was 30 seconds left. We punched another touchdown.
I think you should. I'm not the one that has the moral authority here. I think you should score at will because the system is flawed, and anytime it's based on perception, I wish Notre Dame would run the score up. Why not? There's no reason not to.
Well, the truth is we don't. At this point we have the per Sagarin again. You guys know if you listen. I'm a Sagarin fanatic. I just like stats. I think that's unbiased. It's one of the components of the BCS. Notre Dame's got the 10th toughest schedule in the country. Oregon's got the 62nd. So hey, I mean that's Oregon probably needs to do that, and that's fine. One guy to watch out for in his Pittsburgh game, Ray Graham. He's a running back. He's a senior. He's got. Listen to this. He's now at 4 years, and this is all-purpose yards. He used to do returns. This is return yardage, receiving yardage, and rushing yardage. The guy's got 4,400 all-purpose yards in 4 years. That's pretty sick. The guy's had 900 rushing yards the last 2 years, just shy of 1,000. He's 5'9", he's 190, he's a small guy, but he's quick and he can play. That to me, that's a guy to watch out for.
Yeah, no, every time I look over at the ticker and I see Pittsburgh, I feel like there have been weeks where they put up points. But the fact that you even bring up one player shows A, that they might be kind of one-dimensional. And
Nelson Series, I mean, he had 300 yards passing. He's not a bad quarterback.
Right, but what we've also seen here is that there really is not one player that I think can just dominate Notre Dame. In the past, that player
Marquise Lee is the only guy on the schedule that I see.
He may be, but even so, in the past, there was only one guy that really did that for the last couple years, and it was Denard Robinson.
Yeah,
and you know what? Notre Dame's defense is at least good enough that it seems highly unlikely that one guy is going to take over a game. It's certainly not going to be a running back. I'm sorry, it's just the case.
No, there's no way.
And we've seen good running backs.
Yep.
Notre Dame has seen good running backs this year, so I don't see a scenario where there's one guy that's just going to take over. Even if you go with Landry Jones, probably one of the best college football players, arguably. The guy, big stats, big thrower. The guy, he had a great game, but he threw a pick, which was the moment that they lost the game, and they didn't end up winning. So, if you look collectively at the rest of the schedule, and USC is obviously the only thing that you could even, call a challenge. The teams collectively are 16-16 that Notre Dame has remaining, and one of them, Boston College, is kind of the bottom of the barrel. Pittsburgh and Wake Forest is probably about the same type of game. And the thing with Pitt is, you know what? They're in the Midwest. They're in the East Coast. Like Pittsburgh is. They're well equipped to go to Notre Dame. They've been there before. They're going to be very comfortable. Even if the game gets cold, they can hang with that. So that's the only thing is that there's really no advantage. And I think the scariest thing is what we talked about last week. It's at home. It's at home.
No, I agree with you. Golson needs to.
But the crowd should be pretty rocking.
If there's one thing that's that would make me happy is that Golson and the Notre Dame team find a way to absolutely demolish somebody at home, play good,
and not be bored, and
right.
Just say, hey, this is Oklahoma all over again. And I totally agree. The game's during the day. There is no college game day anymore. There's no lights. I totally agree. This is a blue collar game, and Notre Dame needs to be very cool with winning blue collar games at 3:30 when it's just regular
Last
football.
thing I want to leave you with. Do you have anything else? I'm done.
I only got a couple others real quick here. BSC opinion poll. Are you an Oregon guy or a K-State guy? Who should be higher? Or Notre Dame? Do you think Notre Dame should be higher than either of those two?
Probably Kansas State will be. Oregon. I would rather play Kansas State than Oregon.
I agree with that.
But Oregon's schedule's a little soft, at this point I don't care. I really don't. USC could beat Oregon. Who the hell knows? Kansas State doesn't.
I think Oregon. I'm calling it right here. I think Oregon's going to obliterate USC.
Well, fine.
And that's my other thing. I have a real quick thing here. This is my bold prediction. Probably not that bold. I think USC is going to hit a talent vacuum when John Barkley leaves. And I think
There you go.
Matt Barkley. When Barkley leaves, I think that they're going to hit a talent vacuum, and over the next 2 years, they are going to precipitously drop.
Good.
And Lane Kiffin's going to get canned.
Good.
I mean,
they can all blow me. So I have no love for USC
fair enough.
at all.
I think Oregon
they can fall to the bottom. They can fall to the bottom of the ocean for all I care.
I think Oregon's going to push them off the cliff. I would not be surprised if that game got real ugly. Maybe they'll make me a liar, but I feel like that game might get ugly.
All right, man. Kids ready for lunch? I just last thing here. I'm gonna put it into the YouTube. I just want to leave you with this lasting impression of your head coach, 8-0, Brian Kelly. Look at that guy. How good does he feel?
Hey, there's a lot of people that believe when he came in that he was the real deal, and I tell you, the guy's at least showing that he knows how to manage these games. He's not shying away from the big things. How many times have you said in your head, wow, I'm really glad Brian Kelly's coaching
and
this team
all
right
those
now.
people, myself included, who said Notre Dame needs to go get a guy like Stoops. Why the hell would you want to get a small timer like Brian Kelly? Ta-da! How you like me now?
Yeah.
And if you're Brian Kelly's dog, you've been kicked in the ribs substantially less times this year. Life's good. Go Irish.
Marches on, afraid of wrong, and stop the charge.